This is the moment of truth. Closing the sale. Some salesmen find closing uncomfortable, but they shouldn't, because the basic principles involved are as simple as ABC. Always be closing. That's right. Consider every feature, every benefit of the AMC or Jeep vehicle as a potential close. Listen to some closing ideas from successful AMC salesmen.
Closing isn't just a single step that you come up with after you've done something else. Closing can take place anytime, really, during a presentation of a vehicle. You build to a close.
During the latter part of the sales presentation, I will try a trial close early just to get their reaction on the car. Most often they will give you a hint when you try that of how far along they are. So you're always working towards the final close.
Okay, well, if you covered all of the questions, you demonstrate the product, and everything has been handled as it's supposed to, the transition is as easy as can be. You really don't have to do anything except just ask for the order.
There are a number of closing techniques that you can use effectively. Assume the order. Offer a choice. Get agreement. Overcome objections. And sum up benefits. It's important to pick the right technique for a particular selling situation.
To me, closing is something that you always assume. You assume that you've got the sale while you're working on it.
If a customer's getting into the vehicle and everything's going along pretty well, then you do indeed have the right to say, would you like to leave a deposit on it, and you can take it home with you, and that's very effective. That always works. A little more subtle.
Offering a choice is another successful technique.
Well, I would say to the customer, would you like to go with the ordered vehicle, or possibly we could say the one in stock? Which one would you prefer? Giving people two options is very effective for selling, because making the decision to say A car or B car is also making the decision to buy.
Get the customer to agree with you. That's another closing technique you can use to your advantage.
On the Pacer, I emphasize the greater width on the passenger side door, showing them the ease of entry, have them get into the rear seat themselves, and then ask them, wouldn't they like to have a car like that?
I like to make him say yes. He did like the roof rack on the car. The car did have the cruise control. He says, yes, I've always wanted cruise control. Sort of gets the customer accustomed to saying yes. And when you ask for the order, the word's already in his mind.
In dealing with a payment buyer, I ask him what the balance due on his car is and what his payment is now. Then when I work up the figures on the new car, I can tell him that I can put him into a new 76 Pacer for, say, $118 a month, and ask him if that fits into his payment schedule. And that tells me that he is getting ready for a close.
Another close is to lay the customer's objections to rest. The pros know that a voiced objection can provide a perfect closing opportunity.
Customer that objects to this point or that point gives you the opportunity to overcome his objection, and with every objection you overcome, you come that closer to a sale.
When a customer voices an objection, that's often a signal that he is not ready to be closed at that point. What I like to do is get to the objection, get it out in the open, clear it up, and then proceed ahead again trying for a close.
If the man still has objections, then you haven't answered his questions well enough to where he feels comfortable buying an automobile from you. And through the trial close, you can find out what the objection is and then deal with it at that point.
Very often, the objection will cloud another question or another problem below that. If the man says that he doesn't like the color, very often it just means he doesn't like the price. And once you answer the questions, you're closer to a sale.
Certain objections are pretty common, but they still have to be faced squarely. Objections. I can't afford it. The price is too high. I'll let you know. I'll think it over. His deal is better.
When the customer objects to a price, it gives me a chance to go back and restate the value of the car. And often if he is questioning options, I point out that the per month figure in convenience alone will more than make up for the added cost.
Whenever a customer tells me he'll let me know, he's hedging, or else he just wants to go shopping. That's when I like to point out the exclusive items available to him. Let the man know about the buyer protection plan. Use it as a selling aid. If it happens to be a Jeep, tell him about the Quadra-Track again. Tell him he can't get it anywhere else.
If you sense your prospect still needs additional buying reassurance and more time, try closing him by summing up the benefits, a fifth technique. Often a tally sheet with advantages on one side and momentary objections on the other will help in bringing him to a buying decision.
On occasion, I do find it necessary to actually sit down with the customer, go over his objections, and weigh his objections against the strong points. Putting it all on a scale, generally you'll find that the strong points have overcome his objections and put him in a buying position.
5 closing techniques. Assuming the order, offering a choice, getting agreement, overcoming objections, and summing up benefits. And in developing these closing methods, don't forget the most important point of all, something so simple that it's often forgotten. Ask for the order.
In closing, I think one of the most important facts is always to ask the customer for the order. If you don't ask for it, you'll never get it.
Whichever close you try for, develop a closing vocabulary and use it often. Words that help you clinch the sale.
It's much better to say your new pacer than the new pacer. Emphasizing options, saying your wife could use the option to her advantage. In other words, tying them to the car as early as possible.
I always like to avoid the word sign when I'm looking for a signature on an order. I'll ask the customer for his autograph or his authorization. It sort of makes him feel important, and he is to us.
I would never say buy a Wagoneer. I would say something about owning, because buying indicates that somebody's going to spend something.
There are a number of words like this that belong in your selling vocabulary. Words like investment, economy, performance proven, opportunity, pleasure, comfort, pride, low maintenance, easy payments, value, and many more. Be careful about the words you use.
It's very important that you don't oversell. You very often will have already accomplished the purpose and have sold the car and not even be aware of it.
If every effort to close just doesn't work, it may be time to call on the reserves. TO the prospect, or tell him you'll see if the sales manager can help to answer his objections. If the customer still walks, don't give up. Just put him in your prospect file and follow him up.
Even when a customer's walked on me, I find it extremely important to follow him up. If he was in the dealership, he was in the market for a car, and I'd rather snare him than let somebody else get him.
Remember the key points. The ABCs. Always be closing. Assume the order. Offer a choice. Get agreement. Overcome objections. Sum up benefits. And watch the words. Your words. Your customer's words. Watch for positive signals. All these factors will help you to close. And your success, your income depends on closing. Successful selling. A big part of it is successful closing.